What's up, guys and gals? It's your host with the most groovers always, bringing you guys some more Ayakashi Triangle, chapter 121, entitled Hinojiki's Desire. Not really a whole lot to say about this chapter in particular, because it is very much they're still fighting in the mansion. Though it is confirmed, like we all thought, it is confirmed to be a Medusa that is attacking, of course, with the snake head and all that stuff, and the petrification and that kind of stuff. But it's, for some reason, missing its body. It's only the head with the snake, of course, the snake hair, and seemingly sending out feelers, or I think even Matsuri mentions the arms of the Medusa is still, traveling around trying to find Lou, that kind of idea. And there is some good comedy, and of course, in Ichi moments and stuff in this chapter. It's a fine chapter. There's no real problem with the chapter. I'm just curious as to, because Matsuri even brings up, this thing is heavily powerful if Lou can even see it, who does not believe in Ayakashi. There's that sort of level that was discussed in a couple of chapters, where if someone truly believes, in the Ayakashi, in the occult, in that kind of idea, then eventually, if they believe that a spirit is in front of them, slowly but surely that might start to take form, sort of idea. It is a faith system, it is a belief system. As we know from the first chapter, Shirogane's power wanes and grows with people's fear and admiration for Shirogane. When people stop believing, it's sort of the Santa Claus thing, right? If people stop believing in Santa Claus, slowly but surely his power wanes. Same idea, like from Elf and all that stuff, right? So the fact that this Medusa, who is not complete, it's only the head of the Medusa, is actually going across, which is, I suppose, might be a bit of a reference to, Clash of the Titans sort of idea, because that was the big thing, doing the whole slice. Would you forget the head slicing thing? But it worked, of course, because the Medusa head is still active even in death. If you still have the Medusa head, it'll still petrify and do this, that, and the other thing, right? So we're seeing that here. It has some level of autonomy. It can float around and control its, its power and its snake tendrils, if you want to call them that, and that kind of stuff. But there's still the curiosity of as Matsuri, as I was trying to say there, sort of jumping all over the place for this review, but we had Matsuri bring up the fact that because Lou can see this Medusa and is shocked by this, realizes, okay, so this thing's not only rather powerful in its own right, even though it seemingly is missing its body, and we'll get to that second point, but between a combination of the painting, so it must have stored a lot of belief or Ayakashi energy from its medium, from the painting itself. It must be somewhat, popular or feared or well-renowned, whatever, a sculpture, a painting, what have you. I'm going to go on a limb and say that I think that this is a sculpture, and we'll get to that reason as to why. But the second part is that this thing already has power in its own right. It's feeding off more power because Lou can see the Medusa, only not completely, but just here and there, can see the Medusa, is the fact that it doesn't even have its main body. This is not a completed Ayakashi. So the fact of the matter is, this thing is this powerful with not its full power, if you want to look at it that way. So that is really cool. If you're going to use a very classic, very iconic mythological creature like the Medusa, I'm glad that they're giving it its 2 cents sort of idea, right? Giving it its dues, if you want to look at it that way. Unfortunately, doesn't seem to be, might still be the route eventually, but right now seems to be very evil and not corrupted by the corruption. Corrupted by corruption, huh? But that's what they call it. It's not corrupted by the corruption or anything. It's from overseas. This thing seemingly is quite evil, so I was hoping for, as we all know, another companion, the Medusa, the big-tittied Medusa girl sort of idea, right? Maybe we get that by the end of this. Probably not. Looks very menacing, very evil in this regard. Now, this chapter, the later half of the chapter, is more about how Hinojiki ended up at this point, and we finally get to see that, of course, as we know, if someone has one eye closed or an eye patch in manga, that eye is special. In behind the eye patch, Zoro's eye, coming to you soon. Zoro's eye has the Sharingan, clearly. But yeah, so that kind of idea, we're going with that trope that Hinojiki is locked away most of his Jinyo powers, or what remains of them, behind his eye. Now, we don't know a whole lot about that, because he even mentions earlier in the chapter, like, the power I used to have to feed off of Haku and do this and do that, that's ... What did he mean? What was he going to say about it? We don't know. We do not know, and that is a bit of a contention there. So it seems like, okay, he doesn't really have much power anymore, is the way I was looking at it. And then, of course, the eye patch comes off, boom, and he's ready to fight with the special eye, right? And he's disintegrating. He's still feeding off of them. I'm curious as to whether or not Hinojiki's power being locked in his eye is only a temporary thing, and it's going to suck out his own life force. He's using his own Ayakashi life force power to utilize his powers, and he has now a very limited pool of them. For not being an evil Jinyo anymore, unfortunately, he's got very limited powers, and if he uses too much of them or uses them up, they are going to suck out his life force. He's going to start to disappear, etc., etc. There might be some repercussions, some negative contingencies here for using his Jinyo powers in this way, and that's why they're locked behind, of course, the eye patch. We also get a bit of a backstory as to why. Of course, we know what happened with him, and then he said, he'll find a way to sort of try to be a good Ayakashi, a good person, but then he had no direction after he left Matsuri and Suzu and stuff. He really had no idea how to go about doing that, so he just wandered around, not really wandering aimlessly, with no purpose, nothing like that, just, what the hell do I do to atone? What do I do to do A, B, and C? And he comes across Lou, and Lou, of course, invites him, thinks he's a child, blah, 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 says, hey, do you want to come work for me at the house? You can do this, you can do that, you can do the other thing, and offered, the hand of kindness, very naive, and just randomly finds a random vagabond on the street, even remarks on the fact that it was in a ripped up cloak and all that stuff. Just goes, no, come home with me. It's like, are you that naive? And then is reminiscent and reminded of Suzu and her borderline, like, insane level of naivete, but also that is not necessarily always a bad thing. It shows a huge level of kindness, so there is that. It's very nice, because the end part of the chapter is, now Matsuri, I know how you fought so hard, and I know how your purpose is. Your purpose is to find something to protect. And this is reminding me very heavily of some, I would argue, a little better written version of that, but it reminds me heavily because of you need something to defend, someone to protect, and reminds me very heavily of the third Inuyasha movie. That was the whole thing. And the entire theme of Inuyasha with Inuyasha and his sword is the entire idea of it's a sword to defend, it's a sword to protect. It's not meant for attack, it's meant to protect a loved one, sort of idea, right? So, and that's how you draw out its true power. Hinojiki is going very much on that same idea. He might not have a sword, but that's his idea. Is like, the idea is we can become stronger than anything. The power to defend, the power to protect, the power to protect life and save people is fuel. It is powerful. And it's really nice to see that he's got this. It's really nice to see that he is developing, and all it took, because you could make the argument, I could see people going, okay, of course, they're just trying to, like, throw Lou, still be relevant into the story where she still doesn't believe, because they even go that on in this chapter halfway through. It's like, oh, Hinojiki is from the planet Jinyo, and I'm using space ninja arts and stuff like that. I'm still doing this, that, and the other thing, right? So to sort of keep her in the loop, sort of idea, and some people might argue that this is forced and this is convenient. I don't think so, because Lou has always been established as being similar to Suzu in this regard, and all it was going to take, it could have been anybody, but it fits Lou's character. All it took for Hinojiki to find a purpose or a home, of course he's going to latch onto the first person to extend the hand, because no one before has ever bothered to try to extend the hand of help, saying, hey, take my hand, let me help you, let me do this, let me do that for you. All sometimes it takes is one small act. It's not even that significant on the surface, but to Hinojiki, it meant everything. And now that act has meant way more to him than Lou. Lou's thinking, I do this shit all the time. There's nothing special about doing that. But to Hinojiki, it means a lot more. And now we have the defense. We have that moment. I really like it for Hinojiki as a character. Lou, I'm not crazy about as a character. Whatever, she doesn't really bother me. I'm not really a huge fan. And some people might say, okay, this is going to be the love story sort of way we're winding down that road. Fine dandy. I think this is fantastic for Hinojiki's character development, and I really like that because I like Hinojiki in the story and stuff. Once again, still curious about the eye. My final thoughts on the chapter, though. Okay, so the chapter goes on. Basically, they're still fighting the Medusa, and we're gonna have to find out. I don't think this is a painting, even though they're saying painting. Remember, they said art, not necessarily just paintings. They said art. I'm assuming the reason the Medusa is only the head. Now, you could argue the other way, but this would just make more sense, is that Greek sculptures. Sculptures are the hugest thing, is one of the big things in Greek mythology and in actual real life and stuff. So many sculptures and stuff still today in museums and in Greece and all this stuff. What if there is a statue or basically just a statue of a Medusa or a sculpture, and the head has been separated from the body? You know, it broke when it got over here. It broke in transition. It broke in travel or something. Or they only brought back the first piece, or they can't find the other piece. The other piece is in a museum, and but the Medusa head, which was never recovered, has now been bought by, you know, Lou and stuff like that. There's all those possibilities. That's why I think there's only the head here, and that's why the head is so vengeful. And it still leads into my theory that we're still going to get the Medusa girl as part of the cast later on down the line, once her anger for being beheaded pretty much for all this time has been, you know, saturated, has been quelled. Maybe she'll end up being a good Ayakashi in the end, or whatever. Who knows? Might not, but I still think that that's the reason. Now, you could still say it is a painting, and the painting's just been torn in half. That's probably another issue. I think it's more so that the sculpture was damaged, or was brought over damaged and hasn't been repaired yet, and that's why the Medusa is out and is pissed off. And as I said, the sculpture head, or the statue head, is in one spot while the body lays there, and she's just really pissed off that it's like, could you put my head back on my body, for God's sakes? Who dares damage my beautiful form, you know, in all its glory? So that's the reason I think it's only the head right now. I'm pretty sure because the mirror trick didn't work, I'm pretty sure that that's what they're going to go off of. They're going to find out why the Ayakashi is so dangerous, so evil, you know, because don't judge a book by its cover sort of idea. In this story, the Medusa is not necessarily evil like any Ayakashi. A lot of them are not evil. They're not built on being evil. They're just feared because of their crazy abilities, their snake hair, their this, that, and the other thing, right? So, yeah, it was a pretty good chapter overall, though. As I said, it's mostly they fight and stuff, but there's some great stuff with Hinojiki. There's some great, why is the Medusa only the head, and what is this after? The mirror didn't work, so, you know, let's go down the Medusa's road. It's very less about Matsuri and Lou in this chapter. It's much more interesting about following the Medusa and Hinojiki, but hence, the chapter title is Hinojiki's Desire, so it fits. It's a Hinojiki chapter, and I'm here for it. I like it. So, what do you guys think of the chapter, though? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Do you believe my theory that the Medusa is a sculpture, and, you know, the head is separated from the body, and that's why it's pissed off? You know, let me know that. Or if you have a different theory, let me know down that in the comment section down below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you back here next time for chapter 122 of Ayakashi Triangle. Looking forward to it. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Sayonara.